AEW continued their big show in New York at Arthur Ashe Stadium with Rampage this Friday. That was taped on the same day as Dynamite. So they had their big crowd. We get the first CM Punk match on TV in 7 years. We get to see the Super Click in action for the first time in AEW as well. And we get to see a tag team of Suzuki Goon for the first time in AEW as well, though it was a lights out match, so there's no tagging involved. But it was a fun match. Anyways,
I saw them in a tag match this weekend, though.
You saw them in a tag match. We'll talk about that on our next episode, because we're gonna go right in. We're gonna talk about G1 stuff after we talk about AEW. So we're gonna be talking about all your fun this weekend too. Overall, I thought this was an excellent show. I did not stay up to watch it live, though. I was beat, had a really long day, so I just slept and then watched it the next day.
Yeah, it was a good show. It wasn't quite on par with Dynamite, because that Dynamite was just such a blowaway show, like in ring, and it had probably the best TV wrestling match ever. But this was a hell of a fun show, and a couple of things on here were a miss for me, but overall I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna have to say this venue is awesome.
Yes,
for at least TV and everything. Though I did hear that there were some problems with like concessions and stuff. Like the lines were a million miles long, and they didn't have enough staff to facilitate the concessions in a timely manner.
They ran out of booze.
Yeah, which is not something you want to do at a wrestling. I mean, they've only had tennis in there before. Like, how much stuff have they actually had in this venue besides tennis?
The tennis fans not drink as much as wrestling fans do?
I assume not. It's more high class, hoity-toity. I mean, who really goes to watch tennis?
Not me.
Not me. All right. So before we get into it, let's introduce the show. You're watching or listening to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live over on Twitch and on YouTube, so you can follow the links in the show notes to those channels. Also follow us on the Twitter at That's Wrestling 1 with the number 1, and I post the links up there as well before we go live, and especially since we kind of have a little bit of a roaming schedule at times, because life happens, things happen, and we can't all get our schedules coordinated all the time. And that's all right. Just make sure if you stick to the Twitter, then you will see when we go live and all that fun stuff. Comments, question, feedback, you can drop those to the Twitter as well, or at eric@thatswrestling.com, and also you can come hang out in our Discord. Link is in the show notes for that as well. And once again with me back is Trae. You can find him at Wrestleism. How's it going?
It's all right. I had a big weekend, and then I'm kind of like I have to deal with the fallout from that, which is my back hurts, which is why I sound different, because I couldn't use my regular audio setup because the sitting arrangement is difficult. But I guess I was a little grouchy because I couldn't get my sound shit set up, but I'm fine.
Yeah. So we kicked off the show with the first match of CM Punk on television in 7 years, and he takes on Powerhouse Hobbs of Team Taz. Who was on commentary? It was Taz, Ricky Starks, and Excalibur on commentary this week, I believe.
Yes.
So Punk came right out of the gate with a drop kick and a bunch of leg kicks. And Punk lifts Hobbs for the GTS, and Hook jumps up on the apron, and Hobbs wiggles out and pushes Punk away, and then hits a massive lariat to Punk. So that was this kind of turned it for Hobbs here. Hobbs hits a big body block, chokes Punk on the ropes. Hook gets a shot in behind the ref's back. Punk hits some elbows to get out of a bear hug. They exchange some strikes. Punk hits a few kicks and a leg lariat, swinging neck breaker, running rising knee, pull in lariat. Punk goes to the top rope, hits a big elbow drop for 2. Hobbs blocks a GTS, hits a massive spine buster for 2. Hobbs lifts Punk for a pump handle slam, but Punk grabs onto a rear naked choke, and Hobbs backdrops out of it. Running power slam for 2. Hobbs hits himself into the or sits himself on the top rope. Punk follows with some strikes. Hobbs blocks a top rope Rana and lifts Punk up like he was going to hit a power bomb, but Punk hits the top rope Rana anyways for 2. Punk moves to an armbar attempt, works it to a triangle. Hobbs powers out with a power bomb for a 2 count, and they exchange some forearms. Punk hits a head kick. Hook jumps up onto the apron. Punk walks over to him, but sidesteps Hobbs coming in. So Hobbs and Hook collide, and then Punk lifts him up, hits the GTS, and gets the victory. I thought this was a pretty fun match.
Yeah, Punk looks good. To me, he looks, as good as he did when he was on top. Hobbs he's better every time you see him. And, the more I see him, the more I'm convinced that, this is the guy that you groom to be a top guy in a few years. And this was a good, strong match. Yeah,
definitely. And especially when you get to the point where you turn him back to a babyface, I think Hobbs could be a huge babyface. Just listening to all of, the podcasts that I've heard him on, he could easily be a huge babyface, just given his backstory and all that stuff as well. And
go ahead, finish.
And yeah, he looks better every time, and I have to say Punk looks better with the trunks and not the ginormous kick pads that look like he was wearing winter boots down to the ring like he did at All Out. This gear was better look for him than the All Out gear.
Yeah, it was. I didn't mind the long boys, but this was better. I don't think I said this on the podcast. I tweeted about it. I want Hobbs to eventually win the world title, and then on the next show, Orange Cassidy just comes out and points at the screen, and they show him beating Hobbs in 6 seconds in a dark match a while back, and then you have an instant challenger, and then him beating Orange would solidify his rise from enhancement guy to top guy.
Yeah, now with all the new people, the world title is very crowded. The world title picture could be very crowded. And there's so much I want to see them do with Kenny Omega currently. It's oh man, Kenny's got to hold on to it for another 2 years to get through all the stuff that I want to see him do.
At this point, it would be May at the earliest that I would think about taking the title off of Omega. There's so much for him to do still.
Yeah, because I still want to see a 60-minute draw with Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson. And then I want to see him take on Punk at some point. But then I also want to see him take on Kota Ibushi at some point as well.
Who knows? See, it seems like, just looking at things, the 2 guys that New Japan are not going to let leave the country until shit is straightened out seem to be Okada and Ibushi. So I don't think either one of those are going to happen for a while.
Unless Kenny Omega wants to quarantine for 2 weeks before the Tokyo Dome show, or before Wrestle Kingdom, and defend the AEW title at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, I just don't see it.
I don't either. Next up, we had a video of Thunder Rosa talking about Nyla and Jade attacking her, and then Jade saying that Nyla betrayed her by tossing her out of the ring from behind on the Battle Royale, and then Nyla tells them basically step up and she'll just put them both down.
Yeah.
So we have kind of a three-way tussle here. Kind of number one contender jostling, it would seem, at some point here.
Which is cool. One of the things that a lot of people have really been saying is that you want more women's storylines than just whatever the women's world champion is involved in. And this is a good thing. Like, one of the things that Impact did that I actually liked was the concept of the Monsters Ball match. And just, I don't know. This is what I think when you have like 3 or 4 crazy, tough badasses that want to fight. Just let them all fight.
Yeah, I mean, they can use the rankings to their advantage about people jostling, whatever, jockeying for position on the top 5. So I mean, you can use that to pull out some more storylines that don't even have to be, totally contrived of junk. I mean, getting up on the top 5 is something to work for, and you got instant story right there.
Did you see the news rumor that was floating around last week that I think it was from a good source that they're talking about launching a TBS championship next year that'll be a women's championship, like the women's version of the TNT title?
Yes, I heard the same thing. Don't know if it's true yet, but I would not be against it.
I'm not against the idea in principle. I think that they need to develop the women's division a little more before they add another title to it, but I'm not against the idea in principle.
True. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a trios title first. Because that makes way more sense, because there's a bazillion trios in AEW.
Yeah, and you can tell they are clearly, like, building it. Like, they actually have, like, a lot of trios that team regularly, and it's really cool.
Yeah. Speaking of trios, we end up having a 6-man here, and it is the Super Click as Adam Cole and the Young Bucks versus Christian Cage, Jungleboy, and Luchasauras. This match was really fun. The crowd was super into it. And since this was the Super Click, of course, it was some fun behind the scenes stuff on BTE this week. Did you watch BTE this week?
Yes.
Yeah, so Brandon Cutler is the best. He is the best stooge on BTE while he's out there live watching the wrestling matches happen and taking part in them. They had a story on BTE on why Carl Anderson wasn't out there is because he was busy in the back in a locked room with himself. I'm guessing
jerking off.
I'm guessing
implication.
I'm guessing he just wasn't there for whatever.
Yeah, that's the impression that I
got. So Cole just tags out before he even locks up with Christian to start it off. So Matt gets tagged in. Christian takes him down, and he does some push-ups on Matt's back. We get a bunch of strikes from Christian. He hits the diving uppercut. Jungleboy tagged in. He gets double teamed by the Bucks, though. Cole wanted nothing to do with Jungleboy, and then Jungleboy hits a double arm drag on the Bucks, and he chases Cole right towards the Bucks and ends up eating a double super kick. Luchasaurus fights them all on the outside. Cole puts on a camel clutch on Jungleboy in the ring. Bucks kiss Cole on the cheek and then hit the double drop kick to Jungleboy while he's still in the camel clutch. They go to commercial, and they did not do picture-in-picture on this one, so we didn't see what happened. But when they come back, Jungle Boy makes his way to tag in Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus hits everyone with strikes. He backdrops Cole, double lariat to the Bucks. Luchasaurus hits kicks on everyone, then gives Cole a chokeslam onto Matt. That was awesome because he grabbed. So he basically, instead of thumb up, he thumb down, grabbed Matt and pulled him backwards and kind of held him at like a, Matt almost facing upwards, and then did a chokeslam with Adam onto Matt, and it was awesome.
Yes.
Cole breaks up the Thoracic Express attempt, hits super kicks to Luchasaurus, and they take out Christian. Nick hits a DDT on Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy hits a top rope Rana on Nick, right into a German suplex on Matt when they were going for more bang for your buck, which was an awesome spot. Christian hits a diving headbutt. Jungle Boy covers for 2. He gets on the snare trap on Matt. Gallows distracts, and Matt hits a super kick. Jungle Boy comes back with the comeback lariat. And then Cole and Luchasaurus are tagged in. Everybody else pairs off, and they're all fighting on the outside. We got Luchasaurus and Cole. They're throwing punches. A bunch more stuff happens on the outside, out on the ramp with Jungle Boy and the Bucks. We get a spear on the ramp from Christian, and then Matt hits him with a low blow. Christian and Jungle Boy are thrown off the ramp up near the stage. Cole hits a kick to the knee, hits a Shining Wizard on Luchasaurus, hits a Panama Sunrise on Luchasaurus, and the BTE trigger from the Bucks, and then what they are calling the boom from Adam Cole, which is his, what was it originally called? The last shot?
Yeah, it's a Shining Wizard.
It's a Shining Wizard to the back of the head normally. And Cole gets the pin on Luchasaurus. We get a little bit of a stare down between Adam Cole and Jungle Boy after the match as well. And later on, that match is made for Dynamite.
Yeah. Very entertaining. As great a trio as the Bucks and Kenny are, I always enjoyed the Super Click even more as a trio. So I'm happy to see them doing things again. Christian Cage, by the way, still the Impact World Champion, and he's going to defend the title at Bound for Glory against the Walking Weapon, Josh Alexander, and I expect that's going to be phenomenal, and I presume that that's when he's going to drop that title.
And I mean, there's still a little bit of Christian being an ass to Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus and whatnot. So I'm curious where they're going with that storyline. It's been going on for a long time. So I don't know when Jurassic Express just crack on Christian Cage.
Well, maybe he'll be even more of an asshole after he loses his title.
Very good point.
Funny thing is they protect Jungle Boy, which, obviously he's gonna be a huge star and everyone knows it. So usually when the Jurassic Express loses, it's Luchasaurus getting pinned, but he's a giant dinosaur, so it always takes a ton to put him down, and I just find that an unusual and amusing dynamic that the big guy is the designated job guy, but he's not treated like a job guy. It takes a ton to put him down. And this was they did the thing, and then the BTE trigger, and the boom, and just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Luchasaurus, he's one of those guys that he could take a zillion losses and he's still going to be super over. Just because he's so impressive in the ring that it doesn't matter if he loses every time. Yeah,
and like I said, his losses never make him look bad or weak.
Right.
That's a very important thing.
Yeah. So, next up, we had the Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. Dan Lambert was at ringside with Men of the Year. Jericho and Sky started off with some strikes from Jericho and a shoulder block. Gets a short clothesline in the corner. Hager tagged in. It's a double shoulder tackle. And then Page gets tagged in. Jericho chokes Page behind the ref's back. Hager hits a belly-to-belly for 2. Jericho back in. Page hits a big head kick and a few mounted strikes. Lambert gets a shot in behind the ref's back. Men of the Year start working on Jericho. Sky with a ton of strikes. He puts Jericho up on the top rope. Sky gets pushed off, and Jericho hits the crossbody off the top for 2. Men of the Year go back to beating on Jericho. Hager tagged in, and he runs over Page, hits a huge body slam and a massive lariat for a 2 count. Sky pulls Hager off the apron, and Page hits a diving shoulder off the apron to the floor. Sky chop blocks the leg of Hager to prevent a tag, and Hager hits a big lariat to Page to make some space to get a tag over to Jericho, and a couple shoulder tackles. Jericho hits the springboard drop kick to Page, double sledge off the top to Sky, hits a lion salt for a 2 count. Hager tagged in, just tosses Sky across the ring, hits a Hager bomb for 2, puts on an ankle lock. Page comes in, Jericho cuts him off. Lambert distracts, and Hager lets go, but then hits a Uranagi. Page breaks up the pin, and then Jericho crossbody to the floor on Page. Hager hits a big boot, hits the ropes. Lambert grabs his leg, which causes Hager to stumble, and Sky just grabs onto him and rolls him up and gets the victory. Men of the Year get the victory here over Hager and Jericho. Hager and Jericho bring Lambert into the ring, but then we get a ton of guys from American Top Team surrounding the ring. So Hager and Jericho get beat up by American Top Team, and Paige Van Zant gets a bunch of gut punches to Jericho and then Masvidal, he comes in and hits a wicked running knee to Jericho, which opened up his forehead.
Yeah. This match wasn't bad or anything. This program does nothing for me, and I don't care.
Is it Jericho and Hager against Men of the Year, or Men of the Year, the program that doesn't do it for you?
Both. And I really like Men of the Year as a team. I don't know, like Dan Lambert, he's a good promo, but it's like, and I get it, and I get what they're going for, but it's just not interesting to me. All
right. I can respect that. It's a little messy at the moment, especially because you have so many people from American Top Team, and unless you're an MMA fan, you're probably not going to know most of them. Like, I know who Paige Van Zant is and Masvidal, but that's about it.
I was a little bit of an MMA fan about like 10 years ago when it was really hot. So like I know Junior Dos Santos, I know Andre Arlovsky, I know Jorge Masvidal. I know Paige Van Zant more for being hot than I do for fighting. But...
True, she always lost, so
yeah.
And she looks a lot different than the last time I saw her, but I haven't seen her in like 10 years, so obviously she's 10 years older than she was.
Yeah.
Next up, we had Lucha Bros, Santana and Ortiz versus Private Party, Butcher and Blade. They just all line up across from each other like a Revolutionary War, line, and then they just start brawling. We get a quadruple dive from the Latinos onto HFO, more brawling, DDT on the floor to Ortiz. Butcher hits a massive powerbomb to Phoenix. Hardy threatens to cut Ortiz's hair, so Orange Cassidy comes out. Jack Evans, who was also out there, goes after Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy hits him with an orange punch. Go to commercial. Have no idea who's legal, as everyone hit everybody with something after they came back. And we get the Fear Factor and then the Street Sweeper on Mark Quinn. And the Lucha Bros, Santana and Ortiz, get the victory. This was a bit of a chaotic match, to say the least.
Yeah, it was chaotic. It was fun. It was fast-paced, and they did a lot of stuff. And, it accomplished everything it meant to.
Yes. Because then we go to Tony is backstage with Matt Hardy and Jack Evans, and he's mad that Hardy is mad that HFO lost, and says, but we're gonna get some redemption, as Bunny's best friend Penelope Ford is going to stop Anna Jay's triumphant return tonight. And then he calls out Orange Cassidy, challenges him to a hair versus hair match. It's going to be Orange Cassidy against Jack Evans. And Evans is like, what? What do you do? No. And Hardy says, you're going to do great. You're going to win. Well, you better win. So Hardy just offered up Jack Evans' hair to Orange Cassidy.
Jack's response was fantastic.
So I believe that match gets scheduled for next Rampage. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
We then have a video. Sammy and Fuego, they're doing their cue cards during the commercial, and the cue cards say it's time for the Spanish God to become. And before they get to the last card, Miro comes out and attacks Fuego and Sammy. He throws Sammy into the stage rigging or stage scaffolding, and then throws Fuego off the stage through an equipment table on the floor. And then he puts on the game over on Sammy on the stage. And then he picks up the last card that said the next TNT champion, and he tears it up.
I liked this. This was good.
Yes.
I'm interested in that match because, like we talked about, like, it could go either way, and it would be great.
Yeah, it'd be a good outcome either way, because this Miro is just awesome, and I don't really want it to stop, but I could see him, going and working his way back. I mean, tearing through people to try to get back to the TNT championship could be a fun ride too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next up, we had a short video with Andrade. He says, I'm in AEW to fight. I am smart enough to know when I need help. When I beat Pac, I didn't need help. I have my assistant Jose. He knows not to interrupt my matches or he'll end up like Chavo. What Chavo did was unacceptable. Pac, I will beat you again, and you won't have an excuse for losing. So they're going to play back that match, it looks like.
Yeah, that's cool. That'll be interesting. I kind of think, I think the worst part about the last match was the finish. So do that match again with a clean finish, and it's probably going to be great.
Yeah, considering it was Andrade's best match since NXT.
Yeah.
And then we have Anna Jay versus Penelope Ford. Anna doesn't even wait for Penelope to get to the ring. She runs out of the ring and attacks on the ramp. They get to the ring, and then the match officially starts. On the outside, Anna sends Penelope into the ring post, and then the edge of the apron, hits a running back elbow in the corner a couple times, and then another in the middle of the ring. Hits a heel kick and then puts on the rear naked choke, the Queen Slayer. But Bunny starts making her way down to the ring from the back. Penelope hangs Anna on the rope and hits a running boot and chokes Anna with the ropes. And then we go to commercial. When they come back, they're exchanging strikes. And then Anna puts on the rear naked choke again. Ford pushes her into the corner a few times to break the hold, Bunny jumps up on the apron to distract the ref, tosses in the brass knuckles to Ford, and before the ref can turn around, she punches Anna in the face, hides the evidence, and pins Anna. So we have 2 weeks in a row here with Bunny and Penelope using the brass knuckles on TJ.
Yeah. Why weren't the seconds just out there to start with?
I don't know.
I felt like the way they laid it out just made it feel dumb and convoluted.
Yeah, after the match, the Penelope and Bunny, they keep beating on her and beating on Anna. Ty Conti runs out to make the save, but that doesn't last long. Penelope punches Ty in the face with the brass knuckles, and then we have all of the HFO. The guys are like standing in front of the ring, looking at the ramp to prevent anybody else from coming down. Orange Cassidy and Statlander walk out, and they stand at the top of the ramp. And then they stand here, and Dark Order's music hits, and they all come out to run off the Hardy family office. And then afterwards, everybody is standing face to face of the Dark Order. So we got a bunch of Dark Order guys, and Reynolds offers his hand for a handshake to Evil Uno. Evil Uno just turns around and walks off. So not all is right with the Dark Order still.
Yeah, I still expect that there will be resolution to this this week in Rochester.
I didn't think about that. Maybe, yes.
Yeah, I can't always remember what I said on the podcast and what I just tweeted at some point. But yeah, TV is in Rochester this week. Rochester is Brody Lee's hometown. So I just expect a resolution based on that.
Yep. They run down the card for Dynamite coming up tomorrow, as we're recording this. Sammy versus Miro for the TNT Championship. We have Dante Martin and Matt Sydal teaming up once again, this time against Lee Johnson and Cody Rhodes. So we have a face versus face team here. That could be interesting. We have Bunny and Penelope Ford versus Ty Conti and Anna Jay. Jungleboy versus Adam Cole. I am so looking forward to that match, because that's going to be awesome.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
And then Rampage, we have Orange Cassidy and Jack Evans in a hair versus hair match announced as well.
Yeah. Meltzer tweeted earlier today, apparently there are plans to tape a big unannounced match for Rampage this week. So, interesting to see what that might be.
Already, yeah. I guess we'll see. I'm assuming they're going to announce it on Dynamite. So,
yeah, I don't know.
Next up, we had a split screen. Mark Henry introducing Archer and Suzuki and Moxley and Kingston. Really, they were just all jaw-jacking at each other, yelling over each other. That's about it.
Yeah, and that was fun. I don't dislike the idea of the split screen interviews, but Mark Henry is just so awkward and adds nothing to these.
Yes, I completely agree.
And I love Mark. I'm not saying anything bad about Mark Henry. Just in this role, it not what he could be best used as.
Yeah, he just, for whatever reason, with these split screens, he just loses all charisma. Like, yeah, I think it's because he's talking to no one. He's just talking to a camera. And I think for whatever reason, it just doesn't work for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
So we then have Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki in a lights out match. Archer punched out some ring attendants at ringside, which is just classic Archer, because they don't have young boys in AEW, so they kind of had to dress some people up as young boys, basically, because he needed somebody to beat up. which they actually come into play later in the match as well. But they just called them ring attendants. Suzuki is what the hell? I'm not even sure what they meant to say here. I wrote Suzuki rings in as soon as Moxley and Kingston get inside the bear. Oh, they run in. That's what I meant to type. Suzuki-gun, they run in and attack as soon as Mox and Kingston are inside the barricade. Moxley and Suzuki pair off. Kingston and Lance pair off. Suzuki challenges Moxley to a chair duel, and Suzuki wins that one, hitting Moxley in the stomach with the chair. And then in the ring, Kingston hits a bunch of chops on Suzuki. Suzuki just starts laughing, and Kingston trips Suzuki. He goes and throws a table into the ring, props it up in the corner. Suzuki blocks a whip into the corner and then gives Kingston a pump kick, sending him through the table. Moxley comes in, big boot from Archer, penalty kick from Suzuki. Archer beats up 4 guys on the outside, and they're all in a pile on the outside of the ring. And then as they're all standing up, he gives Moxley a choke slam off the out of the ring onto the 4 guys who are standing up. Archer gets a strap from under the ring. Mox and Suzuki exchange forearms. Archer hangs Moxley with the strap on the top rope. They go to commercial. When we come back, they've taped Moxley's hands behind his back, and they're whipping him with the leather strap. Suzuki starts choking him with it, and Suzuki puts on a single leg crab. We get a couple of trash can lid shots to Moxley. Suzuki hits some kendo stick shots to Moxley, body slam to Moxley. His hands are still behind his back, so I bet that does not do your shoulders very good if you don't land just right. Straight right hand from Suzuki, and then he bites Moxley in the face. Moxley, still his hands are behind his back, hits some headbutts. Kingston comes in, hits a few chops, and hits an enziguri on Suzuki. Pokes the eye of Archer. Machine gun chops in the corner. Exploder to Archer. Suzuki puts on a sleeper on Kingston. I wrote helicopter. That meant something else to Kingston from Archer.
Oh, what is that thing called? Fuck. Helicoaster.
Helicoaster. I don't know why. It just I probably auto-corrected it. There we go. The helicoaster to Kingston from Archer. Suzuki throws a few chairs in the ring. They set them up back to back, and Archer picks up Kingston for the blackout. But before he can hit it, Homicide comes out. And he hits Suzuki and Archer with a chair, and he cuts Moxley free. Moxley hits Suzuki with the paradigm shift on a chair that was laying in the ring. Kingston hits a few back fists to Archer, and then Moxley hits a paradigm shift on Archer, and then Kingston puts a trash can over him and just beats the shit out of it with a kendo stick, and the kendo stick starts falling apart. He tries to break it over his leg. He's like, screw it, still works. So he keeps whacking it some more, and then eventually he pulls the trash can off, and Kingston pins Archer for the victory.
Yeah, this was just wild anarchy, fun, violence. Funny thing is that actually, as this match was airing, Minoru Suzuki was wrestling Homicide for GCW. And also, you see that they announced over the weekend a rematch between these two teams for New Japan at in a Philadelphia street fight at the next set of New Japan tapings in Philadelphia next month. So Eddie Kingston gets to make his New Japan debut. That's awesome.
Sweet. But yeah, I mean, this is a really good episode of Rampage. I do have to say I like the 1 hour format just so I don't have to watch another hour. But
Yeah.
this was fine. It was solid wrestling. It was not nearly as much of it wasn't as quick flowing as Dynamite tends to be. So that was one thing that, I mean, it was a lot of stuff that they packed into, 4 hours of TV this week in front of a massive crowd in New York.
Yeah, and that's the deal. They want to get the most out of that amazing crowd. And, I don't mind the occasional 2-hour Rampage, but I agree in general, I like it better at 1 hour.
Especially given the time slot. It's not as bad for you since you're a time zone over from me, but for those of us East Coast, 10 to midnight is an awful time slot. Especially for those of us pushing 40.
I also don't sleep like a normal person, so there's that too.
Anything else you want to touch on AEW before we wrap it up here, and then we're going to come back talking some G1?
No.
No.
Good show, good times, good things happening.
All right. So thanks everybody for tuning into That's Wrestling. We'll be coming back in a few minutes. We're going to take just a short break, and we'll be covering New Japan G1 nights 3 and 4, and talking about Trae's fun time this weekend that he had at some New Japan live shows. So we can talk about that. You can, if you're listening to this as a podcast, we do the show live over on Twitch and on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, just stick where you are. If you're on YouTube, it will be a different video, so you just have to head over to the channel. It'll give you the link there. Comments, question, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com. You can come join our Discord. Link is in the show notes for that as well. Follow us on Twitter @thatswrestling1 with the number 1. And you can follow Trae @WrestleIsm on the Twitter as well. So for Trae, my name's Eric. You've been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.
Later.